All right, let's try this again. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. For those of you just joining us, me being a dingus forgot to unmute our mics. But if you read the description there, we're going to be chatting a little bit about a trip we are planning, hopefully around mid June, start of June, somewhere in there, tentatively. But the unique thing about the trip is we're going to be doing it on our motorcycles. So that could provide us a few challenges, maybe add a few things, take a few things away from the experience. We're not really sure. It's going to be a new experience for me anyway. I haven't really done any extensive camping or really any camping on a motorcycle. What about you, Ben?
I know. I haven't. I've had motorcycles for years and I've camped for years, but generally, and I've always intended to. I've talked to other friends and acquaintances about maybe doing it, and it's just never materialized. So I thought about it a lot over the years, but having actually gathered up a full backpack, strapped it to the bike, and headed into the woods or to a location to camp for a night or two, I haven't done. And I really want to do eventually longer trips. So this is kind of a test to see what works, what doesn't work, what we should take, and to experiment. We briefly talked about this in the past, is kind of reinforce some of the things we've always been talking about. When you're going to go and test your gear and stuff, test it in a semi controlled environment. And I think we're going to be doing that for the most part, but we are pushing because we one of the places we're looking at. I think each of the places we've briefly mentioned are about an hour's trip for either of us.
Yeah, and for those that were wondering, the places that we were looking at, just tentatively, once again, we're still kind of on the planning for this. And myself, and I don't know about you, Ben, open to suggestion if anybody has something that's somewhere between New Glasgow and Enfield.
Sure, the
Let's
Milford's
go
where I'm
with
from.
that. Milford, New Glasgow area, somewhere about midway in between. That'd be a nice spot to go camping. That's not too far off the trail where we are going to be going with motorcycles. We don't mind walking in a little bit, but at the same time, we kind of need a place to be able to park the bikes to some degree with a little bit of security. Like I don't know if I'd be super comfortable leaving it like parked on the side of the road as long as I can get off somewhere and get the thing properly parked and locked up. I think I'd be happy with it. Uh,
Yeah,
oh, sorry,
I
go.
have I have similar concerns, and there's certain gear that we don't want to necessarily drag miles into the woods, like your helmet. And if I mean, we have to make some decisions on riding gear. Are we taking our normal riding gear? Is that something? Because my leather jacket and chaps that I usually wear on the bike weigh a fair bit, and don't necessarily plan on walking with it on for large distances. So
Nope, and I actually thought about that a little bit myself, and it's a good segue in. So something I was going to suggest, and I never even brought it up to you before the show because I wanted to get your actual live opinion on it. If we are going to be walking a little bit into the bush, I am debating bringing a garbage bag and actually stashing a lot of my stuff somewhere out of the way, at a site where I can retrieve it after coming back out. Because as you pointed out, the helmet, my leather jacket is incredibly heavy because it's a racing jacket. And
yeah,
it's got all the molded armor and crap like that in it. So I couldn't, like, especially if it's going to be warm, where we're talking about in June, if it's like a 26-degree day or something like that. I don't think I want to go walking into the woods wearing this great big friggin' racing leather jacket, right?
no,
So my 2 cents is I may actually step down to my ballistics jacket, which is a little less protection, but not significantly, but a lot lighter. And if it happened to get stolen, not a big deal because I have gotten fluffier in the last few years, and the jacket has not increased its fluffiness to accommodate. So it's a tiny bit tight, and if it walked away, not so big a deal. But I'd still rather be able to retrieve my stuff. So my 2 cents is I'm going to try and stash my stuff. What are you going to do there, Ben? What's your plans?
well, I kind of like the concept, and I had thought that stashing it isn't a bad idea. The garbage bags are a good idea. I have a large dry bag that we could potentially roll up and take for something like that. But yes, I mean it is gear that you don't want to drag a long ways in, and you don't want to advertise like on a podcast where you're going to leave your gear.
No, that's why I just said out of the way, somewhere I can retrieve it.
Yeah, far away, in a very difficult place to get. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a good. good plan, because what I wear in the woods and what I wear on the bike is two totally different types of clothing, and it it's like that for a reason. I mean, you're a bike instructor, I believe, and
Hmm.
you must teach your students that, like, you got to wear protective gear, and that's generally heavy, that's thick, that's not good gear to try and move quickly and easily through the woods, and it's going to be an issue if we tried to walk deep in the woods. If we were going to camp right at our bikes, that wouldn't be a bigger deal. We take it off, flop it over the bike,
And things are
whatever.
good. And that's typically when you look at videos online, because I did do a little bit of YouTubing just to get some ideas and stuff like that. Most guys are literally just jumping off their bikes and setting up camp right beside it. They do generally have the advantage on top of us that they have adventure touring or dual sport, street trail, or something that's a little more apt to go down dirted roads, back trails, things like that, which would be great. Unfortunately, I don't have that available to me, and I'm pretty sure you don't have one available to you.
No, no, I don't. I mean, I have a cruiser and like an 800 Kawasaki, and I know you have a leader bike. No, bigger.
Yeah, I have a 1200 cc
Sport.
ZZR 1200.
Yeah. So we're not talking about physically small bikes. We're not talking about bikes that are overly nimble on dirt roads that they have there. And I've noticed mine on dirt roads when I have taken it. It's a little skiddy. It's not sure footed. She's no mountain goat, put it that way. On pavement, I mean, I can take nice turns. I can flip it around. It's great. But I do know that I have to be careful. I also don't have the greatest clearance or the longest shocks.
No, and
And
I face similar problems, unfortunately. Sorry, phone freaked out there about something for else. Yeah, no, I have very similar problems. Probably even more accentuated for going handling on dirt roads, as I'm sure you're aware. The design of my motorcycle as compared to yours, I got a much shorter rake on the front, which
yeah,
means that any jittering, for lack of a better explanation, there is translated directly to the ground way faster. So for anybody that's wondering, the rake is literally the distance. Well, okay, the simplified version of the rake is where your handlebars come up and meet you, how far away your front tire is from you. It's not really that simple, but that's the very simple explanation of it. So the shorter that distance is, if your handlebars are here, if you can see me in the video, your rake will tip like this, and it generally drives the weight of the bike down on the front wheel. On cruiser styles, they generally have a longer rake, and it stretches that out, and it moves the weight a little further away from you, which allows you to turn slower but more stable. As where
yeah.
a bike like mine, it's meant to turn quicker, but at speeds. Not really so good for the low speed stuff. Though you can do it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not impossible, but it's just not the ideal motorcycle for it. And much like Ben's motorcycle, there is not the ideal motorcycle for it either. But I think we're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna learn a lot about ourselves and our bikes if we come back in one piece, and the bikes come back all in one piece.
No, that's my plan. I always come back in one piece.
Well, we
Uh,
always want to come home.
so I mean, it does put a challenge to what we've normally done. And it's also the first time really me and you camping together. If you exclude the bushcrafting weekend where we were happened to be in the same physical location. But that's about the size of it. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily overly known that we've only actually met face to face once.
Yeah, just at the gathering.
Yeah. And that was 3 years ago now almost. So
2016. I still got one of the banners on the wall back here.
yeah.
So,
So I mean, there's a bit of learning curve here for both of us, I'm sure. Seeing each other's styles in the woods and all that, and we got our bikes and stuff. So, like, the first thing we need to do is locate a location, but that is kind of secondary to. I mean, our mode of transportation is a driving force for this one, and then what we can take on this mode of transportation. We are both of us load limited. You can't really wear a big, heavy, awkward backpack while riding the bike. You can wear a backpack riding the bike, but a fully loaded backpack starts to get a bit awkward.
Yeah, I've already got reservations on a lot of stuff I'm going to be cutting out of my pack. And that's kind of the most unique challenge to all of this is figuring out what can you take given the limitations we're going to have. Um, Sorry, jumping off topic a little bit. Anybody that's having some difficulty viewing us there, I know Chris is jumping on. He's saying have some issues there. On my end, I do see a few frames dropped, but I don't see an actual lag in the video, so to speak. How are you viewing there, Ben?
I noticed myself freeze up once, but other than that, it seemed smooth from my side.
Yeah, we'll just keep going. If nothing else, the audio will be fine and people can listen that way. Um, so yeah, the big thing that I'm going to be cutting out of there, or right off the get go, for me, it's going to be a hammock sleeping. There's going to be no tent, probably no ground mat, things like that. I'm probably going to go ultralight hammock setup, much like what Ben has there in his hands. So apparently you're thinking along the same lines, same as me.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've both discussed in previous videos how hammock tends to be our preferred setup, especially in the warmer months. So that was a kind of a no-brainer to me. The tent systems I have are generally older, and honestly, I have concerns about the ability to repel water and insects, really. Um, and the time we're going is a prime time for insects. So this could be a rough trip. Like we could get out there and be completely swarmed. Uh,
Yeah, that's a very good point there. We're definitely gonna have to bring some sort of insect repellent, something DEET. Ticks are gonna be out full bore as we're going as well.
yeah, May this month right now is Tick Awareness Month, but yeah, I mean this is the start of the season really, and it not that it stops any time of year now. They say you can get
Sort
ticks
of
year
insect
round now,
repellent.
but this is when they get more prevalent. And it's pretty well extends to midsummer, and then in the hotter weather, it tends to die down a little bit, but never quite goes away.
No, I think on the Nova Scotia Bushcraft Facebook page there, somebody said that they're already digging ticks off their pets.
Oh yeah,
So ticks are already out and out there, guys. Like, don't think that it's not going to be an issue this year. They keep saying it's going to be probably one of the worst years in history. It seems like it's getting worse every year, honestly.
yeah. I spoke to a neighbor of mine. She's a tutor, and she mentioned that they had a student show up a little while ago with 8 ticks on him, and they had him outside, and he was trying to brush them off and stuff. So I mean, it it's they're out, and it's prevalent. It's something to be aware of, and it's something to deal with. Um, and that's another reason I kind of like the hammock setup. My hammock is fully screened in. Uh,
Likewise.
so once I get set up and I'm hung, it's pretty limited on how, as long as I keep them off of me during the day. I have a set of gaiters I may test out again. I used them yesterday, actually. We did a map and compass type thing with search and rescue, and a couple of us were wearing them for that. So it's something I'm going to keep trying. Um, I was going to say earlier, and I want to go into this. Insulation is a question for me right now. I don't know what I want to take for sleeping gear. Um, Mainly because if it's really warm, I don't.
Uh-oh.
It's
You froze up there, Ben. If
I'm
it's
still.
really warm, you just froze up for a second. If it's really warm,
If it's really warm, I can get away with a lot less, and there's a few things I might test. One of them is I may try and test out using the lambskin off my bike seat.
okay, kind of like an under, just to keep
Yeah,
the wind from
just
blowing
under
up.
my torso. Um, but otherwise, I have an underquilt that I usually take, and then probably a decent blanket will probably be fine in June. I won't necessarily need to go to a full sleeping bag or a larger one, anyways. So that should keep my gear down somewhat. I'm thinking I've probably just taken one of these liquid gas stove type stoves.
hmm I have basically I have a very similar one that I was thinking of taking as well. Depending on weather and what the fire ban and stuff like that says, we'll have to check it and
Yeah.
do
My,
our
my
due
other one was
diligence.
My other idea was a twig stove, but I'm
It's
just debating.
I hear you. It's still considered an open fire, right? So, and both places we were looking at is fairly far in the bush.
Yeah. So that's neat, small, compact, and I can pretty well depend on it to light almost any weather. So it's a quick security for knowing I can get at least one hot meal while we're out there. Uh, we haven't really decided length of time and stuff. This will be something to be decided once we find a location and we figure out the date. When we're going to leave, if we're going to leave Friday right after work and meet up, if we're going to leave Saturday morning, we will have to figure that out.
Hmm.
Um,
Still lots to discuss and plan, but we have come to the conclusion it's going to happen. Uh,
for
Both of
sure.
us wanted to do it, and it seems like as good a reason as any to do it. And if we do get out there, I'll definitely be taking my camera equipment, and we'll try to do some on-site shooting that hopefully we can bring back for one of the casts, or we'll upload it on our YouTube channel or something like that for everybody to view. We'll definitely have something going on there. So hopefully we'll get some feedback and all that stuff. That'd be good.
Yeah, I got camera gear that I haven't really tested out for on the bike, but I wouldn't mind. Like I got a couple of these action cameras. I wouldn't mind sticking a couple of those on the bike, see if we can get some neat video. Might be some fun. So that's going to take up some of our room. That's going to take up some of our weight as additional camera equipment. It's not massive,
No,
but
neither's mine, but it still takes space.
still takes space, and we are dealing with a very limited thing. Um, Something we've discussed and I want to talk about, so just trying to hit my topics as they come to my head, is eliminating redundant gear.
Yes.
With two people camping together, there's no need to take two of absolutely everything. There is your personal gear that each person should be responsible for, but there's gear that's kind of going to be more shared around camp. And one thing we had mentioned was cutting tools. Like if you're going to take an axe, I'll take a saw, like this one.
Yep.
Or vice versa. If there's a saw you'd prefer, I can take one of my axes or a machete or something. But figure out what we're going to take and try and not have a lot of duplicate gear that we don't really need two of. Like you're not going to be cutting cords of wood out there.
No, I'm hoping that we can get away with. Well, I guess once again it depends on what the burn restrictions are at the time. I got to check with a fellow I know with natural resources as well that works at a Shubenacadie, and I'm going to pick his brain and actually get some of the finer details of the gray area in this whole open burning ban as well, because there is stipulations where you are allowed open burning and stipulations where you're not allowed open burning. And yeah, I'm not going to get too much into it because I'm hoping that we can pull him on as a guest at some point as well. It's just trying to coordinate getting him here and not in Shubenacadie, so I may have to do some pre-recording on that or something. But we've talked about that, and I'll leave it at that, and hopefully it comes up later on.
Well, Shubenacadie's closer to me than he is to you. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I was going to say he is over at the fire center there at the wildlife park. You know the Shubenacadie Wildlife Park.
Yeah, it's only a few minutes from my house. I go there.
So if you go up Cretan Road, if you go to the right, you're at the wildlife park. If you go left, you are at that's actually Fire Services Nova Scotia. That is the hub for everything fire related in the woods for the province. Yeah. So he works right out of there actually. So
I actually where they got the helicopters up there, I've actually been up there and I replaced the windshield on a MD500 a few years back. Quite a few years back, actually.
Nice. I remember when that happened. I was actually doing some of the helicopter training at the time.
Oh, really?
It was on Barney, wasn't it? The big purple one, or was it the blue one? I can't remember.
Yeah. I think it's still wrote in my logbook. I could probably tell you which tail number it was. Yeah, it was me and a guy, Leon Zink, from Romac Aviation came up, and we changed the windshield out.
Nice.
Remember
Small
pulling
world.
pencils and coins out from under the seat. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that was...
I'm trying to think how many years ago that was, too. That wasn't yesterday.
2002.
Would it have been that long ago? Yeah, 2002, 2003.
2003, I started at IMP.
So it would have been 2002 then. There you go. Anyway, jumping back on topic. Reducing redundancies. So things we looked at, as Ben mentioned, was getting rid of reducing our cutting tools, The other one that I was going to mention to you is perhaps reducing some of our cooking supplies. We could share cooking supplies potentially.
Yeah, especially the stove. We wanted to just bring one stove.
Exactly.
Uh,
I'm going to bring my GI cup. I always bring it as a cup. It doubles as a pot and a few other things. So
um, yeah, I mean, there's certain things, certain dishes that we should each have our own. But like, if we're just boiling water for most of our meals, then it's really one pot should be enough. Mix it up in our own little cups or bowls or whatever, and uh, basic utensils. I just happened to got a set of titanium forks and knives for Christmas that I still haven't really used much, so I'm kind of
nice.
excited to get more opportunities to use those. Not that I think it's necessarily worth the extra money for the.
You know what? If you got them for Christmas, man, just nod and smile. You know what I mean?
Well, we bought them for each other, me and the wife, so we each have a set.
Oh,
Still
I
can't.
see the way it goes. But that's still cool. That's actually really neat. I've often wondered how the titanium stuff compares to other stuff. I just run with a plastic one myself. 9 times out of 10, I usually just carve something up like a quick little spatula and use that because I try to tend to travel ultra light as I can because I'm fat and lazy by nature. So I try to do things that keep me busy and eating less. Something I am going to do food wise though is I'm going to dig the dehydrator out and hit it pretty hard for the meals that we take to try and cut down on a little bit of weight there. The location I had mentioned to you there, we'd be right on top of the waterfalls, so we'd have water available to us. We just have to boil it, or
Yeah.
have like one of the life, not the life straws. What am I thinking? The
Sorry, Minnie.
Sawyer. That's it. I
Yeah,
couldn't remember the name off the top of my head, but
I have a few sets of those laying around.
I gotta get one. I have yet to get one. I've been saying for years I'm gonna get one, and I still have not. I don't
I
know
just
why.
picked, and I think I mentioned this on a show. I picked up one of these bladders that the back opens up, so you can just scoop it
Yes,
full. And I'm definitely modifying that for the Sawyer Mini. That would be the perfect way because the little bags that come with it, trying to fill those through the spout, you
painful.
need like fast running water. Like you need a
Mm.
tap. And a lot of spots I've been on a lake, and you're sticking it in, you're trying to drag it through the lake, and it doesn't work. It's not a great system. Um, you do really have to play with it. So anything you can do to improve that, and I've seen other people have used these style bags where you have the almost like a thick Ziploc or a tube that you pinch down on. I have something like that, so that's something I'll probably throw in. Um, I have two saddlebags on my bike, and the back seat is of a significant size. I mean, me and my wife used to ride it all the time, and I'm now almost 40% smaller than I was at that time. So I have lots more room than I used to. I
I
huh?
was just gonna say I think I found your 40%, and I don't have any kind of luggage compartments on my bike. So I literally have to get everything that I'm gonna take either strapped to the back seat, which is of no significant size, or in my backpack.
So for that matter, I think I have the advantage.
But I'll get
In,
there quicker.
you can do 2, 3 trips while I do my one.
But no, realistically, yeah, I think you're definitely going to have the advantage on that. Which I guess we'll see if it's an advantage or not. Will that cause you to? I don't see it being the case, but I guess something we could look at. Does that give you overconfidence? Do you overpack? Are you going to take things that you may not necessarily need just because you have the room for it? I think it's going to be interesting. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not calling you out on anything. I just mean it's something
Oh,
I thought of too. Am I going to underpack because I'm going to be so worried about taking everything on my bike? And are you going to potentially overpack because you got the room to take a lot more on your bike? So it's
I,
going to be, I think it's going to be neat when we arrive there and we start looking at each other's gear. Because for all you guys listening, we are planning this, but we're also kind of keeping it individual as well. So there's that little bit of element of okay, now that we're here, let's figure it out. Is it safe to kind of say that, Ben?
oh, for sure.
Because
I mean,
that's no. Go ahead.
it's. I'm sure both of us are fairly interested in what approach each of us wants to take when we get off the bikes, how we're gonna stash the bikes, like properly secure them and all that. We're securing our gear, just see what our styles are in the woods. Like, do you just clomp right through? What other things are we going to want to do? We get in there. Like there's a lot of bushcrafty things that we can play at, and there's a lot of opportunity, especially where we have the podcast and the channels and stuff, to get some really good videos, some photos, things to use for backgrounds. Like this is a good opportunity for us to really work on some of the stuff that we're working on and have some really good face-to-face conversations. That hopefully we can record a few of those, and some of that may get posted eventually.
No, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a very big a very good, interesting experience for the both of us. I'm genuinely looking forward to it. I'm actually really excited for it, and I really just can't wait. I'm interested to see, like, as you said, what our styles are going to differ for in the woods. I'm excited to get out there with somebody else that does hammock camping, because up to this point it's basically been me. If I go out with Melissa or something like that, I generally take a tent because have you ever thrown two people in a hammock? It's a redundant question. Of course, you don't put two people in a hammock because that doesn't make any sense. But I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, and a lot of this gear is relatively new. This hammock I've only used once, and I know already I have a problem with my suspension system. So I either have to fix that or replace it between now and then. I think both of us have some maintenance to do on our bikes before they're 100% ready for this type of trip.
A little bit more for me because I screwed up tonight, but that's a whole other story. But
yeah, I'm picking up some pieces tomorrow or Friday morning. I haven't decided when, but I got to run into Truro and buy some parts. I called them up. They called me this morning, told me they're all there. So Truro Motorsports is setting me up with some gear. Not sponsored, by the way, but just throwing that out there.
Yeah, shout out to a good company. I'm using Adventure Motors down here in New Glasgow. I got a clutch cover gasket ordered, a new sight window ordered, and I actually want to put the center stand back on my bike before we go out and do this because I don't know what everybody's experience is out there or what yours is too there, Ben, but the side stand that's typically on a motorcycle has a very small footprint on it, and regardless of where we go, I'm intending that I'm expecting we're probably going to park on the dirt. And for my big old heavy girl, I do not trust the side stand at all because I know we'll walk out of the woods and I'll find it on its side. So I 100% want the center stand back.
There is no center stand for my bike.
No, but your bike's also lower to the ground, and they typically have a better side stand on them. Like the one on my bike is literally about this long and has a footprint like that big, the size of a loony. On hot days, it'll start sinking into the asphalt.
Oh, I've had mine sink in asphalt. And previous bikes have done that too, especially hot days, and newer asphalt is way worse than old asphalt, which seems to have dried up and has no...
Oh yeah, fresh asphalt, like fresh blacktop, is just terrible. You can almost watch the bike sink into it.
But I have in the past, and for a trip like this, I probably will. I have taken a sheet of plywood or hardwood plank and throw that down and make sure my sand sits on that. And I know you can buy plastic ones now that kind of... Like...
I've had a couple of them. They always get stolen. Somebody will literally just push your bike up, take your stand, and walk away with it. So I just stopped buying them.
I got a 3D printer. I wonder if I could print one.
I don't know if they'd hold up or not. I'd be interested in trying that, just to see. But anyway, yeah. Something else I'm looking forward to, talking about hammocks, is I'm curious to see how you hang your hammock up in comparison to mine. Because, I mean, I'm a bit of an oddball. When I bring my hammock out, I tend to pull it pretty tight. A lot of people don't take it as tight as I am, and maybe I'll learn something from you. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, and I'm completely open to the idea that I'm doing it wrong. It just happens to be what I've done up to this point. So there's a lot of things. They're not good on hot asphalt either. No, they are not, Chris. No bike is good on hot asphalt. That's what we were just talking about. But anyway, I'm curious to see where we are similar in the woods, but more excited for where we differ in the woods. Because I think we're going to learn a lot about each other, as well as our different attack styles of doing, not attack styles, our different wood styles of doing things, like how you do something and how I do something. I'm hoping that I'm going to take a lot away from watching you do stuff, and I hope you do the same with me too. As you mentioned at the start of this video, we've never camped together outside the Bushcraft, and we were vaguely aware we were in the same campground.
Yeah. I mean, I remember your wife was doing a rope making thing, and we sat there, and the girls really loved that and stuff, and we had a couple of quick conversations, very close to the end of it, I think. Um, but other than that, no. I mean, so you mentioned hanging the hammock, and I have a here, and it's just basically it's not a credit card, it's my search and rescue card, so there's nothing you can steal off of it. Anyone who's that interested, don't try. When I hang mine up, if your card is more or less level, the rope should go from one corner to the next.
Okay.
That's the angle you go for. The other method, they say, is take your finger in a gun, and it should go from basically your thumb to your fingertip. That should be the angle down. I have a buddy who's very similar to what you described. He loves his bar tight, and his wife made his. And for the life of me, I don't know how the thing hasn't exploded, because he's a heavy set, fluffy man, and the tighter you pull a hammock, the more force you're putting on the strings.
Yeah.
And it's just simple math. I mean, we could go to physics if we wanted to, but the reality is, if you have a tightrope across, then any weight you put in the center is significantly more weight that the whole system is taking. And as you slacken that off, it gets less. The more slack you are, the more wide you're going to be able to kind of make the hammock when you lay crosswise.
And you have told me that on other occasions as well. That's why I'm kind of going to be eyeballing how you set yours up. I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if my eyes can be open to the ways of the slack hammock, to see if I like it more, because I've always actually had that difficulty. I know you don't lay directly in a hammock if you want to lay flat at all. You kind of go on an angle. I've never actually been able to get a decent angle where I'm quote-unquote flat. I'm always kind of half in a hoop, right? Like,
Yeah.
I would never be able to lay on my stomach. I would break my own back. I could probably lay on my side intermittently, but it's definitely one of those you lay on your back and good to go kind of deal. So that's how I sleep anyway. So I mean, it was never really a big deal to me. But Chris asked, "Do you have a ridge line on your hammock?" Not directly on the hammock. I tend to put my ridge line above my hammock. I hang it between the two trees, away from it. Only because I don't like things close to me. It's not a claustrophobic thing. It's I flail kind of thing, and I like the extra room. So I tend to keep my ridge line a little higher than what most people normally would. Now, if we happen to land in there and it's pouring rain or something ridiculous like that, then yeah, I'd probably drop it right down on top of me. But otherwise, I'm gonna keep it up. I'm gonna keep it up fairly high, and I'll probably go with not a full triangle on my hammock either. I'd probably do like a quarter and a full slant down, depending on if we have a fire at night or what our deal is there too. That's gonna say a lot of that. And I may just try and go super cheap and do like the old Canadian Tire tarp. I'm not sure yet. I'm playing with some ideas in my head.
Yeah, I'm probably definitely taking a sil nylon tarp, but I have a couple of sizes that I have 3 sizes that I can choose from. So it'll be one of those. My biggest one, I think, is the Mech sil nylon guide tarp, and that is like 13 feet long and 10 feet wide or something. It's a bit massive. The other ones are a bit smaller. I'll be taking one of those. But I do have a hammock with a ridgeline built in.
And that's actually what Chris was asking about. He actually just commented down there. And to answer your question, no, I don't have a ridge line built into my hammock, Chris. Mine is just secured at both ends, and then I do everything off that for myself. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
But the two that I tend to use the most have the screens on them, and I don't overly like the concept of an internal ridge line in it. Now, I've come up with a couple of concepts I've never really tried where I could put an extension off my lines, but that means I need a larger distance between trees for a minimum setup. So right now I need every bit of 12 feet to set up my hammock due to my present length of hammock and suspension systems minimum numbers. So 12 feet is about as close as I can go, and I can go out to a little over 21, 22 feet, which honestly is higher than I want to climb. Because by the time I go out 20 something feet and go up, it's higher than I can reach. So these are things to consider. Now, with your method of pretty well barred tight, you can go as long as you want, really.
Yeah, but like I said, this time out, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna open my realm of experience, and I'm going to. Actually, it might be something that you and I can shoot a video on. We'll just do setting up a hammock, and we'll crash
Oh
it and
yeah,
see what happens. We'll do a before and after. We'll set our hammocks up at night, explain what we're doing, and maybe do a little powwow in the morning over coffee or something.
yeah, yeah. That sounds great. Yeah, so we got that. So we're both thinking hammocks. We're both thinking probably a liquid fuel stove, and both kind of hoping that we'll be allowed to have at least a small fire at night to chat near, and probably have like a cup of tea, cup of coffee, or whatever. Um, we've talked about reducing the number of tools. There's certain tools I'm sure each of us will want to take our own. I'm sure we're each going to want our own knife. I don't think that's really a debate that either of us would want to have, saying, "Oh, we should only take one between us."
No, I mean, we'll. I, my idea for what it was is worth. Um, I'll give you a quick breakdown of my major tools, and we'll see where we can cut out the redundancies. But as you said, there's going to be some stuff I'm just going to take regardless if it's redundant or not. Like, for instance, and I'm sure you would agree on this, you have your own knife that you like. I'm going to take my own knife that I like.
Yeah,
My multi-tool, I just like having it. Anything that I basically wear in my belt when I'm in the woods, I'm going to take regardless if it's a redundancy or not, just because
yeah,
they're mine, I'm familiar with them, and it's what I like. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. I mean, and like I think most people who are really into bushcraft, your knife is kind of a personal item.
Very much so. Very much so.
It's not something you overly share, and it is a major part of your survival system. And if everything goes to a shit, as long as I got my knife, I feel like I've got a pretty good chance overall. So I'm going to probably take that. We probably would each take at least some degree of a first aid kit.
Oh, for sure. I always take a basic first aid kit as well as some basic medicines. So I
Yeah,
usually take something like a Benadryl, a reactive, maybe some cold and sinus pills, a painkiller, um, probably something for diarrhea and constipation. Very small quantities of everything, but it's just stuff that they're niceties. In all honesty, I'm sure we could find stuff in the woods that would do the same thing, but it's so much easier just to have a little blister pack pill, and your problems are more or less cured in 20 minutes to an hour.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we got that. For me, the boots I generally wear on bike are the same I wear hiking, so that works fine for me.
Me as well.
So I think we've covered off the basics there. I think we'll have another show where we may discuss this. And I think the big thing we should probably talk about is food there. You've mentioned dehydrating some food. I know our diets are going to vary fairly greatly.
Yeah, because is it the keto diet or something that's similar to a keto diet?
It is the keto diet
Okay.
I'm on. I'm honestly at a spot now where my wife will get mad at me if I lose much more weight. So it's not super important to me. Uh,
But we'll
but
still discuss that. I mean, there might be a recipe. Actually, I got one for you, Ben. What do you think of this? Why don't we put it out to our listeners as to um, what they would like to see us do while we're out there? Like we mentioned the hammock before and after. Is there anything else within reason, of course, with the equipment we have available to us, or something that we can reasonably afford to purchase to take out? Is there anything you guys would like to see us accomplish while we're out there, or shoot a video on, or talk about? Seems like a good a place as any to set it in here. Maybe we're looking at June. That gives us about a month to get some feedback. What's your thoughts, Ben?
yeah, that sounds pretty good. I mean, yeah, anything that we can add to it that challenge. I think we said before, a challenge or anything somebody wants to see. how do you do this? What methods would you use for dealing with that? Um, we can touch on almost anything. We can test each other and see what we can find for edible food in there. Maybe an option.
Anything that comes out of my backpack will be edible.
Yeah.
But no, I'm good with that. I mean, I'll openly admit I'm not the best with edible food, but I know a handful of stuff. Like, I wouldn't die in 24 hours, that's for sure.
No, no, neither would I, honestly. But they say you can go 3 days without water and almost 3 weeks without food. So
Yeah, but you have to remember when they say that, they're basically expecting you to be burning no calories. So, I mean, I like the saying, but at the same time, I dislike the saying because that's based on you're conserving calories, which we're probably not going to be doing if we're out there having any kind of fun. Bushcraft chairs. Would love to see your different styles. I sit on rocks or the ground, so that should be easy. But I'm willing to try that. You want to try and make some bushcraft chairs while we're out there?
yeah, I can. I did have a chair that I was contemplating bringing that I received from my brother a while ago, which is a little tiny lightweight thing, and I can show that in a video if we want. But
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's not very big. I think if you just hold on 1 second.
Certainly. Well, you're going to get that. Yeah, Chris, you know what? I will give the old college try to making one of the actual bushcraft chairs, like one of the A-frame chairs, I think. I've always wanted to give that a shot. I've done kind of something like it in the past, but I wouldn't call it an accomplishment. I'll see if I can make something.
Are you talking about like the hammock type style chair? Because that's one advantage of us taking our hammocks is we have built-in chairs, really.
Kinda, and that's where I was going with that. But I'm thinking no, more the actual 3A frame where you have the two. You build the A, you come across the bottom, and then you run your two runners out, and then you would stack a little bit in there to actually make a full chair. Hopefully the video translates it better than my explanation, because I think I confused myself on it now. Well, that looks like quite the contraption there, Ben.
Yeah, so this is a neat little rig.
Is it a chair or a satellite antenna?
Both. When you sit on this, you can pick up HBO.
Nice. We can keep up on Game of Thrones.
That is the most important thing when you're in the woods, is making sure that you're up on your fantasy series.
So yeah, well, Ben finishes putting that together. If anybody out there has any kind of challenges or things you'd like us to see, post them up on our Facebook page. Actually, we may start a topic on that alone under the discussion side of things, and we would really like to get your guys' input. Be sure to share it and get lots of input in there, and we'll do as many as we can. I mean, within reason. Thanks, Chris. At least you followed the explanation. You can picture it in my head. That's great. Even my wife can't do that.
Yeah.
Now that is a slick rig.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it fits in this little bag. It's smaller than a 2-liter pop bottle for sure, and it's got almost like a molly webbing type thing on the bottom, so you could easily strap it to the bottom of almost anything. So that's something that I may play with, and it weighs nothing.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a game me and my brother play. We keep trying to find new gear for each other to test out, which is a fun and exciting way for two brothers to bond.
I can't argue that. I think that'd be a great way to do it. I don't have anybody to do that with, unfortunately, but I like to pick up weird and wonderful things and see how I can make them work as well. So I get where you're coming from, and that'd actually be kind of a fun challenge to do with a sibling. Try and find the weirdest, most exotic survival stuff, and then make the other one use it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got me a lot of cool gear, and I do appreciate it, and it's good because honestly, like it's something we've used to bond. And my brother is, I want to say 8 years younger than me. It's shocking, but
so hopefully he doesn't listen to the podcast. He'll be sitting there just shaking yonder fist.
No, we both have a similar memory like that, I'm sure. But I think it's 8 years. So there's 8 years between us, and I left home around 18. So he was still more or less preteen when I left home. And now he lives up in Fort Mac, so I don't get to see him as often as I'd like. it's only been the last couple of years that he's been more settled away where he's able to travel and stuff. And I still haven't had really the opportunity to travel out there to see him. Something I hope to do someday soon. But these are things we've discussed. Like this is something we both tend to enjoy, but we've already discovered in trips that we did get to do in the last few years that our methods do vary quite a bit. What he enjoys, I don't necessarily enjoy and stuff. And these are the type of things we're hoping to find out amongst like ourselves. Like every bushcrafter, I think, has their own styles and preferences and methods, and you can learn from them.
So Chris threw up another challenge for us, depending on where we go. Catch fish with survival-only gear. No bought rod and reel, just basic line, split shot, hook, etc. I have tried that. Have you ever tried that, Ben?
Yeah,
I'm thinking, you remember the old Rambo knives that had the screw-off end and the fishing gear inside?
yes, I do.
So that's what I'm thinking. I remember having one of those when I was 16, and I actually tried using it to catch fish. Didn't have luck then. I haven't tried it again. I'd be willing to give that a go. I'll have to buy a fishing license. I mean, I want to be legal with it, but I'd be willing to take that on.
That thought passed through my head as soon as you mentioned it too. It's like I haven't done that in a couple of years. I've always been busy. Like, and I have a cabin right on a lake. Like, I really should have a fishing license. And the last couple of years, I've been too busy just doing other things. Like we did get out camping, get to bushcraft, but I just never bothered. Like I'd be sitting there saying, I should go fish. I hadn't get a license yet. I have to go into town and buy one. I guess I could just go paddle.
I don't have an excuse. My work is literally 2.5 minutes from the Natural Resources office. I can
Yeah.
almost throw rocks at them. And I used
Yeah.
to work there, so I mean, I really don't have an excuse if I get caught fishing without a license, so I should just go over and get it. But yeah, I'll pick up a fishing license. I'll give that a go.
Yeah. I'm definitely planning on doing it. I
You,
think.
you froze up there for a second there, Ben, for some reason, or
Literally, eh?
just every now and then for some reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'd be willing to do that, and we'll try and make a list and see what we can hammer off. I think that'd be a fun little game for us. That'll test our skills and hopefully each other a little bit, and
Try
hopefully
and
we
find a
don't
bit of
drive
bait.
each other insane.
See if we can get some maggots or some of those little grubs or maybe a couple of worms if we're real lucky.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll bring the fold up. I'll put the shovel on the maybe list. It's
Yeah.
pretty heavy and it takes some room, and I don't know how I feel about that in the motorcycle, but it'll be on the maybe list.
Even a small trawling shovel. Trowel.
You mean like one you get from the dollar store? We talked about this before, didn't we?
Yeah, something like that would work. I mean, we're just talking about scraping the upper couple inches of soil to see if we can find something underneath it.
Well, sure. We can even flip rocks or something like that. Like, I mean, there's options. We'll come up with something. We will come
You
up
know,
with something, and it'll be entertaining if nothing else.
oh, for sure. Yeah. So we got fishing, making like a bushcraft chair. I mean, that's kind of basic camp setup too. So we can show how we set up like the camping area, what we're doing, how we store our gear. Like I try not to leave things underground, just to keep them from getting too damp and stuff. Um,
I just realized why we're glitching up tonight.
my,
Because Melissa's out in the living room watching a show. We don't have TV here, so everything's run through the internet. So she's stealing our bandwidth. Oh no. I'm watching on the side of my screen. For anybody that doesn't know, I have no idea how to show you my screen, but anyway, I have a meter that shows me how much the bandwidth is spiking up and down because I'm plugged directly into my router, and we'll be sitting here and I'll just see it skyrocket for a second, and then a few seconds later is generally where you, like right now, it just skyrocketed. So I imagine in a couple seconds you're gonna glitch up again on me.
I'm moving around to see if I can see it.
But
uh,
anyway, yeah, I think
Have
that'll
to
be
make
good.
download shows before the show, record a cast. That's it.
No, see, I don't know if I'm breaking any laws here or not, but I
Uh,
have a Bell account
yeah,
in at my mother's. I still have the subscription in there for her,
yeah.
but I can log into it from anywhere on the internet. So
Uh,
anytime she wants to watch a show like on TV, we just log into the Bell account thing and watch it, but it still takes bandwidth. All we get out here is Eastlink, or I would have brought my Bell with me. And the whole reason I keep the subscription in there is solely so I can watch some of the shows here, like hockey games and stuff like that. When her parents come down, her and my dad, we like to sit down and watch the hockey game. So, anyway, that's a whole different tangent. So, you know what? Unless you got anything else you want to cover, why don't we wrap it up there, and
Yes.
maybe we'll give everybody a week to roll some ideas around in their head about some stuff for us to do. Chris gave us a couple there. Make a pick from a dead felled tree. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea for digging into the ground. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and maybe we can talk about some of those challenges and things that we may be able to hammer off. And next week, you had mentioned maybe we'll talk a little bit about food was one of your ideas, or
Yeah, I mean, especially if you want to start. I mean, there's a good challenge to each other is to see who can make the best bushcraft meal.
okay, I'm game with this. Give me 7 days. I'll see what I can dehydrate out.
Right?
Because I want to test it at home first. Like, I've dehydrated the veggies and stuff like that and thrown it in with rice, but now I'm going to try some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll try it in the next 7 days, and we'll see if I'm still alive for the next episode.
Yeah. So yeah, let's play around with that. I'd usually try to have some jerky done up, just because I have been doing a keto. A lot of pre-made foods just don't. There's not much there, so we make a lot of our own stuff. So that could be neat. Just to see what can you take? Sometimes for the first meal that I go, I usually just try to take something like fresh steak or something and freeze it so it stays good until I'm ready to cook it. But yeah, that's trying to keep it lightweight, small, compact. Let's see what we can do.
Well, for the first night, I'm all for having steak. We could do a caveman style, throw it right on the coals. I've never tried that. Always wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that answer.
Charcoal sounds real good on my teeth. Yeah.
You know what? Everybody says if you do it right, you don't get a whole lot on the steak. I'm willing to try that one. I'll give it a go. I'll throw it right on the coals, and I'll eat it charcoal and all if it comes out.
Oh, I will too. I mean, worst, can you just give it a quick scrape with a knife, get the worst of it off?
Oh man, that's all the good stuff coming off then. But anyway, we digress. Let's wrap it up there. As said, next week we'll talk a little about food. We're going to challenge ourselves right now to see. Let's not drop each other any hints between now and then, and we'll do it on the show. What we've come up with for dehydrated meals.
Okay.
Like, we can still chat about some stuff, but let's not spill the beans. Let's actually we'll do the reveal on the podcast itself on what we've come up with for interesting meals. And anybody that's out there that wants a laugh, that'll probably be one to tune into, because I already got a couple ideas in my head that I'm going to try, and they'll either be awesome or complete failures. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. I think I got a harder challenge here, but yeah, like I said, I don't have to stick too much to my keto. So if I want to spread out a little bit, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, see, I don't know a whole lot of what's on the keto diet. Maybe I'll look it up and see if I can adhere to it at least a little bit. That way it puts
I don't expect you to. If it's not something you're eating, then there's no real need for it. It's really just getting the carbs out of your diet, though, is the big thing for me. So I don't do bread, I don't do flour, I don't do anything sugar. So it does limit a lot of options. But I got a few good options, a good few things we can do. So this could be fun. This could be exciting. Dial in our gear a little bit. Do a kind of a update on how each of our bikes are doing. If I completely screw up the front forks and all of a sudden she won't run tonight, we got a funny story for a few days until I pay someone to fix my poor mechanic skills.
I've never successfully done forks. No, that's a lie. I have successfully done fork seals. I've never successfully done fork seals first time around. I don't know if my sight glass will be in 7 days or not, so we'll see what happens. But no, I think I'll try and figure out some of the basics I'm going to take for gear, as I have it laying over there on the couch all sprawled out at the moment. But and we'll do the food challenge, and then next week we'll talk a little bit more about our refined tools and how our dehydrating challenge went.
Okay, so yeah, we'll start a little pack list, I guess, and we can compare notes.
Sounds good.
And just before we leave, we can reveal exactly what we've finally decided on, but just a starting point, I guess. So, okay, sounds good. We'll wrap her up there, and looking forward to talking to everyone next week.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks for joining us, everybody. As always, get dirty, play safe.